Hello and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to take a look at some Xbox One hidden gems for you. Games that hopefully you may not have heard of, or may not have heard of all of them, that I think are definitely worth your time if you've played all the big hits, so to say. I recently did a top 15 Xbox 360 games, which has been quite successful, so it's inspired me to do some other kind of top 10 lists. So to take a look at that if you haven't seen it already. So I'm going to do 10 hidden gems today for the Xbox One, and I'm not going to do them in any particular order, so it's not like 10, the first one's the worst and the last one's the best kind of thing. They're just in a random order. I've tried to split up the order a little bit so you don't get a load of the same genre in a row, so just a completely random order. And without further ado, let's get started. Right, so the first game on the list is Arslan, Warriors of Legend. So this game is based on an anime series, as I understand it. I've never watched the anime series at all, but it's based on an anime series, and it's a Dynasty Warriors style game, so big open maps with not a huge amount in them, and you fight and kill hundreds and often thousands of enemies on your way through the map, and in between each level and oftentimes during the level there's cutscenes telling the story of the anime. It's based on the first season of the anime, so if anybody has watched that, this is a game based on that story. There's lots of cutscenes. Visually the game is stunning, as you'll see. I'll put some gameplay up, but visually the game is stunning. It's a really nice anime, cell shaded style, graphical style. It looks really good when you're playing, and it also looks incredible in the cutscenes as well. It's effectively a full-on anime during the cutscenes. The combat's really fun. One of the really good things about it is the animations of the character you play as in the combat are all really well done. There's about, I'm not sure how many, 10 or 12 individual characters you can play as during your playthrough, and they all feel very different. They've all got decent enough kind of variation in terms of their combat to make them kind of rewarding and interesting to use. And yeah, it's just a really good Dynasty Warriors style hack and slash game that looks stunning and has a pretty decent story going along with it as well. So yeah, bit of a hidden gem there. Definitely recommend Arslan, Warriors of Legend. Right, next up we have what is probably one of, if not my favourite game on this list, and that is World of Van Helsing Deathtrap. So what is this game? I had never heard of this game. I only played it because it came out free with Xbox's Games with Gold, which have fallen off a bit recently, Games with Gold, now that Game Pass is here, but it's always worth just checking them out to see if there's some gems in there. But this is a tower defense game, which I'm a big fan of anyway, combined with kind of a top-down action game, think kind of like Diablo style. So you can place, you're guarding your home base as you would in a tower defense game, and you can place towers and traps in set positions, so you can't kind of guide the enemies, but you can place in set positions, but you are also on foot controlling your character, and you can attack the enemy as well, and you have to defend your home base from waves of enemies. So the concept is pretty straightforward, but the depth to it is amazing. So all of your towers and traps and everything you can, as you would imagine, upgrade and unlock new ones as you go through the story. But also your character, you can have 3 different classes, which is like a mage, a sorcerer, a warrior, and I can't remember what they use, but the equivalent of an archer, like a rogue or something, a ranged attacker. So you can do entire playthroughs with each of those, and then with each character there's a huge skill tree that you can level up. There's crafting in it, there's loot drops once you complete a mission, chests will open up dropping you loot, and you've got various weapons that you can level up in different rarities. You've got spells and skills that you can level up during it. There's so much depth to it. I haven't looked at the exact amount, but I think I've put at least 40 or 50 hours into this game, and this was just a game that was free on Games with Gold. On top of all of that, it's got co-op, so I played this 4-player co-op with a few mates, and I mean most of that 40 hours was with our group, going through the whole campaign and then trying to do it again on the higher difficulty settings, and you get rewarded with more XP and more current in-game currency to buy better weapons and spells and upgrade everything on the higher difficulties, and it's just that endless loop of trying to do it on harder and harder difficulty settings. But it's such a rewarding game. Put hours into this game. Thoroughly recommend it. So next, number 3, but again in no particular order, is Powerstar Golf. So this is a very arcadey style golf game with the 3-button system. You press it once to start it, press at the end for your power, and then press again for your accuracy. But it works really well. Again, I think I got this game for free somehow. I'm not sure if it's still a free-to-play game. I think it might be, but then I think you pay for additional courses. But being free, it's definitely worth giving it a go just to start with. And this was very much at the start of the Xbox One. There weren't many games out. I remember buying the Xbox One and looking on the store. It's not like there is now where there's thousands and thousands, you can't find what you're looking for. But I ended up picking this up. Again, another game that I've put dozens and dozens of hours into. It's a very kind of solidly made golf game, and I actually mentioned in my Everybody's Golf review that I put out a few weeks ago that I think this game is better than the Everybody's Golf series. You've got a range of characters that you can choose from to play as. They each have their own kind of abilities and different ways of playing the game and different skill shots. There's not a huge amount of courses, but what there is kind of very well made and well designed. You've got your usual variety of courses in there. I think there's only kind of 4 or 5. But I mean, that can be entertained for, as I say, kind of 20 plus hours. So I don't think it needs too many more. And the other hook is that all of your gear and things you'll earn, I can't remember if it's XP or currency, but you earn rewards during your gameplay, which you can then either purchase directly the gear, or you buy kind of chests, which will give you random rewards like new clubs or outfits or that type of thing, and they'll have stat rolls on them. So you're constantly trying to kind of get better gear, better clubs that give you more distance or more accuracy, and that type of thing. But just a really good, solidly made arcade golf game. It doesn't have full multiplayer, but what you can do is there's rivals mode. So you can, if any of your friends have it, it will record their best rounds on each course, and then you can kind of play against that ghost effectively to try and beat your mate's scores. And if none of your friends have played the game, it will just put you up against random people. You can either choose to go against the world record holder, which obviously is going to be a bit of a challenge, or it will just randomly assign you someone to play against. So it's got kind of almost multiplayer, not quite multiplayer. But yeah, a lot of fun to be had. And if you're a fan of golf games at all, then I'd definitely recommend checking this one out. Right, moving on, we have Onrush, which is a arcade racing game mixed with kind of combat. So a combat racing game. Had a huge amount of fun with this. This is one I just randomly walked into a local game shop, just saw it on the shelf, knew nothing about it. The cover looked interesting, so I picked it up. There is a video with gameplay of this on my channel if you want to see any more than the footage I'm putting up now. But effectively, the twist on this one is you're not racing to win, as in there's not really a finish line. You race as part of a team, and I think there's 5 or 6 cars in your team, and you have to score points as a team. And you score points depending on the game mode, so there's a few different ones. You either score points by damaging your enemies, so you can completely wipe out your enemies, and then if you get wiped out, you spawn at the back of the field and you have to race your way back through again. But the idea is to take out your enemies. You earn boost by going through certain objects, by damaging opponents, and if you get enough boost, then you get your special ability, which varies depending on which car you're using, but sometimes gives you speed boost, sometimes gives you kind of the ability to take out enemies more easily. One of them, you have a trail of fire coming out behind you, and if you drive in front of other cars, you'll take them out. And there's different game modes, so one of them is just to get the most points as quickly as you can. One of them is like a think of like Call of Duty, where you've got King of the Hill. There's a King of the Hill on the racetrack which is constantly moving, and you've got to get as many as your team's cars in there as possible. And you can be quite tactical with that, because you can have some people, like the big tanky vehicles, defending and batting people out, and then you can have the more agile ones, like a motorbike or something, being designated to try and stay in the circle. So yeah, I had a really, really good time with this. It's got a decent story. Well, the story's not decent, but it has what I mean by that is it's got a decent campaign. So there's quite a few missions to play through, and it does have online multiplayer as well. So yeah, a lot of fun to be had here. Check it out. So the next game on my list, number 5, is Child of Light. So there probably will be quite a few people that have heard of this one, but I haven't heard it spoken about at all in the last kind of several years, so I thought it was worth bringing up again. It's by Ubisoft, so obviously a big developer, but not their usual game. So as you can see by the visuals, it's a stunningly beautiful kind of hand-painted visual effect, and it's effectively kind of a JRPG combined with a bit of a platformer. You play through this beautiful world. The combat is turn-based, so yeah, traditional turn-based, but the mechanic of it is it's all set on a timer, so your attacks and your opponent's attacks will be on different times. You'll have fast enemies and slow enemies, and you'll see at the bottom there's a meter that fills up for when you can attack and when your enemies are going to attack. And you have abilities that do damage, but you also have kind of defensive abilities that will slow enemies down or speed your own attacks up, and it's all kind of a tactical kind of effort on being able to deliver the most damage in the shortest amount of time compared to your enemies. It's a really nice story. It's got a reasonable amount of depth in the actual kind of combat. You've got skill trees where you can unlock all kinds of different abilities and level them up. You meet quite a few companions during your playthrough who join your party, and they obviously, as in all other JRPGs, they have different attacks. You'll get tanky ones and defensive ones, healers, that type of thing. You won't see it in the gameplay here because I've just recorded from the start of gameplay and I've lost my save file, so it's just a very early on in the game. But yeah, just a very, very well made game, really, providing a lot of entertainment. So if this looks like the kind of game you'd be interested in and you haven't already played it, I would definitely give it a go. Next up is a very different game, and it's a game called Dead Effect 2. Didn't get the best reviews, I'm not going to lie. Most of the games on this list I think are all good, but most of them got good reviews, and I think they're good. This one didn't get great reviews, but I think it's a decent game to have a bit of fun with. It is ported from a mobile game. I never played the mobile games. I don't really play mobile games that often, but it's a first-person shooter set kind of a sci-fi setting. You're on a spaceship, and it's called Dead Effect because I assume this was intentional. It's kind of like a hybrid between Dead Space in terms of it's quite a horror, it's not scary, but it's a bit of a horror game. You're shooting zombies on this spaceship, and Mass Effect because you've got some RPG elements in there, and you've got kind of like biotic abilities. You can kind of throw out stasis effects and lightning and that type of thing. And it's a bit of an RPG, very light RPG, in that you can upgrade gear, upgrade skills, upgrade abilities, that type of thing. It's not gonna kind of get any awards or anything like that, but it's, if you're looking for just a dumb, fun shooter to play through, I admit I never even finished this game, but I did put a good few hours into it and had a good bit of fun doing it. Yeah, if you're just in the gaming droughts we get in summers and things, if you're looking for a game to play, this would be a really good one. Alright, for number 4, we have Styx Master of Shadows, and this is another game actually that I got through Games with Gold, so it's always worth checking them out, even if most of the time now they're not great games. But quite a few of the games off this list came from Games with Gold. So what is Styx. It is a very good looking, well made, kind of throwback stealth game. You're a goblin in this kind of fantastical world, and you are trying to steal this magical tree, effectively. And yeah, it's kind of a throwback to that kind of stealth gameplay you got in older games like Thief and that type of thing. Quite slow moving. You don't want to take on too many opponents at the same time. It really is more about the stealth. You can't go in kind of guns blazing. Not that there are guns in this game. It's got some light platforming to it, which works quite well. It's a lot of play on light, so you can extinguish torches and things, and you have kind of a catpot thing you can throw sand at torches to extinguish them and things like that as well. The voice acting of the main character Styx is actually really good. I really enjoyed he kind of talks a lot as you're going through. I really enjoyed his dialogue. And yeah, just generally a very well made, put together kind of 3D stealth game. If this is your type of game, I'd definitely recommend it. Now next up we have Lonely Mountains Downhill. So this is a kind of mountain biking game where your only objective is to get from the top of the mountain to the bottom of the mountain as quick as possible, falling over as few times as possible. It's a very rewarding game, but it's quite difficult. So you can take it nice and slow and learn your routes down, but to get those high speed quick runs in, it's quite difficult because the controls, once you get used to them, they're really precise and accurate, but you have to be precise. You can bail, you can crash very easily, you hit the smallest rock or you hit a shrub or something and you're over, even if you're not going that fast. So to nail these fast runs without any faults is very difficult to do. But as I say, very rewarding gameplay. Once you nail a section, it feels really good, and it's definitely that game of once you spend a bit of time with it, getting used to the mechanics and getting skilled at it, you will improve drastically. I think it's got quite a nice balance between relaxation and kind of intensity, because you can, when you first come onto a new route, you're basically asked to go down it quite slowly and explore and things. So it's quite relaxing to just take in the scenery when you're at that stage, and then when you're trying to get these no-fault runs or these fast runs, it becomes a lot more intense. Visually, I think the game looks really good. It's a very simple aesthetic, but I think it works really, really well. It's very clean. There's a fair few different routes you can do. So I think there's 4 or 5 different mountains, and each mountain has several different routes down, which mixes things up quite nicely. And you have to beat all of the objectives on one run before you can unlock kind of the next mountain. So it forces you to get good on a mountain before you move on, because the difficulty jump from mountain to mountain can be quite high. So I've assumed they've done that so you don't move on until you have the skills to be able to tackle it. But yeah, a very good arcadey game. I'm not sure a huge amount of people know about, so I definitely recommend this one. Right, we're nearing the end now, but a couple more left. Number 9, we have Shadow Warrior. So this is a remake of a game from the 90s, a first-person shooter, and it's been remade really well. So it's kind of a AA first-person shooter, kind of a B-movie style aesthetic, very corny, cheesy dialogue, balls to the wall action, fighting demons, throwing samurai swords around, but kind of a really good, fun time. I loved my time with this game. So the combat, as I say, it's a first-person shooter, so you've got your usual guns and things. You can dual wield, you can go crazy, but you also have a samurai sword with you the whole game, which is really fun and satisfying to use. And I found the guns are useful in a lot of situations, but at least half the time I was using the sword. The damage that the sword does, well, the guns as well, but it's really satisfying. You kind of sever limbs of demons, you decapitate them, there's kind of limbs flying all over the place. It's yeah, it's a very fun, kind of satisfying weapon to use. I say the story is not groundbreaking, but you effectively, portals opened up to demons from another world, and you are effectively fighting through hordes of demons, trying to reassemble this magical sword, which will solve all of the problems. But the story is neither here nor there really. You're basically just going through slaying demons constantly, and there's a lot of very humorous dialogue as you go along, as I say, kind of B-movie dialogue aesthetic. Yeah, so it's a great first-person shooter, and if this looks like your thing, it might not be for everyone, but worth a go. And finally, we have Defense Grid 2, and I'd throw Defense Grid 1 into this as well. So this is another tower defense game, but in this one, unlike World of Helsing, Deathtrap, you don't have your individual character. This is a pure traditional tower defense game where you can actually control the path of enemies depending on where you place the towers. And it's just a very well made, put together tower defense game with a decent story running through it, some great voice acting from the narrators and people that are talking throughout kind of the levels and in between on the cutscenes. I'm a fan of tower defense games, and this is one of the best traditional tower defense games I've ever played. I put so much time into this game. I originally found the series through the first one, and then as soon as I saw this was releasing, I bought it day one and put a huge amount of hours into it. It runs really well. The amount of enemies you can have on screen at one time is incredible. The particle effects all look really good. You can kind of zoom in and zoom out of the map, so if you want to focus on a particular area and zoom in to see what the enemies look like, you can do that. There's a decent story running through the whole thing about obviously defending from alien invasion, with a decent amount of maps and quite a nice variety in the way the maps work and how they operate and how they're laid out. And yeah, there's a lot of content to kind of work through in this game. There's multiplayer as well, which I didn't play too much of, but you can battle against another player, and effectively you're both on the same map, like singing your own map, but for every enemy you kill on your map, you will send over to your opponent's map. So that turns out to be quite a lot of fun actually, and can get quite intense. But yeah, another game worthy of your attention, especially if you are a fan of tower defense games. Right, so there we have it. 10 games I would consider hidden gems for the Xbox One. If any of them take your fancy, give them a go. I've got a few more hidden gems that I didn't put in this list, so I probably will do another kind of 10 games or so at some point in the future. I want to give myself a chance to play a few more games as well, to see if I can add any to that list. If any of you have any games you would consider hidden gems, please leave them in the comments below. I'd love to hear them. It's really difficult to find games at the moment with how congested the story is. It's impossible to find anything unless you get a recommendation, really. Yeah, so any comments below on some games I should check out would be much appreciated. And if you have enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing and dropping a like. I'll be doing a lot more videos. I've got quite a few ideas for other top 10 videos and things coming up. And if this is the first video you've seen of mine, the channel's called Mission Backlog, and the reason behind that is because I'm trying to get through my backlog of games, and I do playlist videos. So I randomly select a group of games to play in the next playlist, play them all and put up a review of each of them on the channel, so you can go and check that out if you like as well. I'll put a link to the backlog playlist video if any of you want to check it out. Anyway, thank you for watching, and hope you have a good day.